And welcome to this edition of the Native News Update on this Monday, January 7th, 2013. I'm the host for today's program, Paul Demain, and many of the stories we read here can also be found at our website, IndianCountryTV.com. And here are some of those news stories for the day. The Supreme Court on January 4th agreed to review a ruling that sent a South Carolina couple's adopted Native American daughter back to her biological father in Oklahoma. The High Court agreed to hear an appeal by Matt and Melanie Capobianco over the fate of 3-year-old Veronica. The couple's adoption of the girl was overturned by the South Carolina Supreme Court, which said the girl must go back to Oklahoma to be with her biological father, Dustin Brown, a member of the Cherokee Nation. The state court said the Federal Indian Child Welfare Act gives custodial preference to the girl's father. That act was passed in 1978 because of the high number of Indian children then being removed from their homes by public and private agencies. The act gives the child's tribe and family the right to have a say in decisions affecting their child. The Capobiancos want the decision overturned. The former chairman of the tribe that runs one of the world's largest casinos and his brother, the tribe's treasurer, have been charged with stealing a combined $800,000 from their Mashantucket Pequot tribal nation, according to federal prosecutors in Connecticut. The indictments, returned shortly after January 4th by a federal grand jury in Hartford, follow a lengthy FBI investigation at the tribe's tiny reservation in rural southeastern Connecticut, where it owns and operates Foxwoods Resort Casino. The former chairman, Michael Thomas, 44, is accused of stealing more than $100,000 in tribal funds and federal grant money between 2007 and 2009 during his tenure as leader of the tribal council, a position he was ousted from over his handling of the tribe's finances. His brother, Treasurer Steve Thomas, 38, allegedly stole more than $700,000 between 2005 and 2008 when he was assistant director of the tribe's natural resources department. A tribal spokesman, William Sadie, released a statement in which the tribal council said the federal charges threaten their tribal sovereignty. The Intertribal Council of the 5 Civilized Tribes has accepted the U.S. Marshals Museum property offer to build a Trail of Tears monument in Fort Smith. Muskogee Creek Nation Principal Chief George Tiger sent a letter last month to museum officials saying that the Council's executive committee unanimously approved the offer. The monument would represent the tribe's first journey west into what is now Oklahoma during the 19th century, known as the Trail of Tears. Tiger serves as president of the 5 civilized tribes, which are the Creek, Cherokee, Choctaw, Chickasaw, and Seminole nations. The Southwest Times Record reported this weekend that the museum will provide the land for the monument, which will be paid for by the Intertribal Council. The museum board first invited the 5 civilized tribes to place the monument in June of 2011. The $50 million U.S. Marshals Museum will be built overlooking the Arkansas River in Fort Smith. Officials say they've raised about $10.2 million for the project so far. The assessment of a shell drilling rig grounded off a remote Alaska island is continuing, with officials putting more salvagers aboard. Officials say in a news release that critical response gear was put into place for the eventual recovery operation. The Kuluk ran aground December 31st near Kodiak Island. Power generators were also delivered. A majority of 14 support ships are expected to be in place this weekend. Members of the command team also met with Alaska Native leaders in the nearby community of Old Harbor to hear their concerns over the grounding. The Kuluk performed preliminary work on a well during the open water season in the Beaufort Sea. It was being towed toward Seattle last week for upgrades when it became separated from tow lines during a storm. A Fort Totten man has been sentenced to more than 2 years in federal prison for biting the arm of a police chief on the Spirit Lake Reservation. 24-year-old Brant Yankton, also known as Brant Jetty, was ordered to serve 27 months in prison and 3 years on supervised release. He pled guilty last August to a charge of assault on a federal officer resulting in bodily injury. U.S. Attorney Timothy Purdon says Yankton bit through the skin on the right forearm of Bureau of Indian Affairs Police Chief Raymond Kavanaugh during a traffic stop in April of 2012. Purdon says Kavanaugh required medical attention and has a permanent scar. The newly elected president of the Oglala Sioux tribe has been moved to a rehabilitation unit at Rapid City Hospital following a one-vehicle accident last week. Bryan Brewer was involved in the December 29th accident on the Pine Ridge Reservation in western South Dakota. He was transferred to Rapid City Regional Hospital with a broken pelvis and broken ribs. Brewer's spokeswoman, Tony Red Cloud, says the president has been moved to the rehabilitation unit of the hospital where he is expected to stay for up to a week before being released. And that's going to be another roundup of news from Indian Country on this edition of the Native News Update. We want to thank you for joining with us and come back again soon.